Hello and welcome to the next lecture, and actually section called observability. And observability is a really important thing if you're going to production in more of a more scalable way. If you have one server, which is single source of truth, you don't need to have like observability as this, because you can always check if it's if the clients are like arguing that that something isn't working, or but even in this situation the observability will be a really helpful thing. And in this specific video we'll see how to do a health checks. But if you're scaling up, if you're going to use the microservices and even more, you'll do something in the cloud, the observability is the first thing that you'll need to have for sure. Why? Because observability will give you a lot of information about what's going on with your server, with your service, if it's running, if it's failed to start, or when it's ready to do some action. So imagine a situation, the super simple example is you're starting up a server in Kubernetes, right? And so Kubernetes needs to know when your pod, or in this case instance, is ready, right? So example, you have like super complex logic for the database, and in this case let's say that you have like 40 seconds startup, right? And your app is only starting to work in 40 seconds. And so if you'll start some other microservices that will call your service, then they'll fail, and all this chain will fail together, right? So your single server will fail everything else. So this is not a good way to start a service, right? So in this case, you need to have a health checks, for example, which will show you the readiness of your app to receive the connections. And so this observability will help, for example, Kubernetes to know when to run the next app. And you can of course do it yourself with the bare hands and like some endpoints with your own implementation to know, you can put, if you have like a large script that should work, like startup event or something, right? You can put like a boolean to true, but it's a good idea to have like something already done, and Quarkus provides it more than enough. So let's jump into first thing that's called the health check, right? So let's create an app, and this will be a micro profile health. Nothing special, we only have a health extension. So let's create the project and open up an IntelliJ IDEA as always. So I open up a project in IntelliJ IDEA, and I can show you the POM XML, nothing special here. As always, we have a Quarkus smaller health. That's the only difference, everything else as is, nothing more, nothing less. So we'll have an empty Java folder, and it's okay. So let's start firstly with readiness check. So when your app starts, you might have some time, like maybe 20, if it's like, really bad service. First thing is that not have this startup time at all. But if it is, if you depend on something, right, and this something takes like 40 seconds, maybe you have I don't know, database connection that lasts for like 20 seconds because it's like a chain of proxies, or I don't know. But well, it happens a lot. So I have a project that startups maybe 40 seconds, because there is a lot of things to start up. So in this case, we can create a readiness check. So let's create a text now readiness check. And this can be accomplished with the readiness annotation, of course, and you can of course extend the readiness health, actually implement, health check, and you'll need to have this one annotation called call. So like this, and of course you need to have it application scope. So this is a basic example of how it works. So there's a readiness and liveness, but we'll go to the liveness in a few seconds. So let's think about the readiness check. So with readiness, you specify if your app is ready to receive connections, to work like normally, right? So maybe if you call some endpoint, this will ruin some of the logic inside the service. So you want to specify that, or you just, you don't want to receive connections because the database is not ready. So in this case, just you need to have this readiness check that will specify for the clients that, hey, I'm not ready yet, or the other way. So you can already, hey, you can call me if you want. So this can be accomplished, of course, super easy. So you have this health check response. And depending on situation, so we'll put the property, config property here, which we'll use, or we actually can do actually something different. So we can do the startup event observes. So let's put observes public void on start or whatever, and so we put here startup. Oh, we don't need it here, right? Observe startup event like this. Event. So here we'll put a boolean. Let's put it like public static final, just a boolean, right? Ready, right? Something like this equals false. So it will be false by default. So we thread sleep for maybe 10 seconds, right? And after that, we'll put a ready equals true. So this is a good example. We can even make it 15 to make it visible. So with our case, we'll check if ready is ready. How it's let's say if ready, then we'll return a health check response down, and you can specify the name of the health check, right? So we can put readiness or something like this. So yeah, on else, of course, it will be same thing, but you can put here like up, right? So this is super easy, super verbose, nothing special. So now we can go to our Postman and actually let's start the project. Okay, I messed up here a little bit. So here it should be up and then here should be down. Yeah, so change it. I need to wrap this up in a thread. So let's create a new thread. And so we can do it like this because it's a Java 8. Oops. And let's put the thread sleep here like this and run, of course. So oh, actually start, sorry. So this will be asynchronous, so it will start correctly. So this will give us in 15 seconds, we'll change it to ready to true. By default is false, and then if it's ready, then we make it up, and else it's down, right? Nothing special. So let's go to terminal, start our Maven v Quarkus dev. Yeah, so you can see that Quarkus is started. Let's go to the Postman and call this /health/ready. And you'll see that status is down because our check was down, and ideally it should be some check for the database or something like this. In our case, we haven't attached anything, and with database actually there is a service, there is an extension. So if you use the Agral or something different, it will automatically have the extension that will specify the check here for a database. So you don't need to carry it as long as you have this Quarkus Health extension in your app. Small I extension. Any database which supports this smaller extension will have this automatically ready. So now you can see in 15 seconds or more, it's already up. That's great. So let's move on to our readiness check, actually liveness check. So liveness check is something more different because with readiness, you check if your app started or not. So This is targeted for the startup of the project, and liveness check is a little bit different, because liveness any service that is interested can check the liveness anytime it wants. So the great example is the liveness check for the Stack Overflow. So you check if it's working or not, and if it's not working, then you can do something with it, right? For example, show the users that it's not working correctly. So yeah, so let's create a liveness check. Liveness check like this. So we'll have the same implementation, health check, like this, but in this case we will have the liveness annotation. And so here we of course can specify something more verbose. For example, we can create a health check response, so you can put it up, right? Then you can specify the name. As you can see, we use the readiness that we specified in a name here, readiness. And so, yes, misspelled, sorry about the readiness, but whatever. So here with the health check response up, we can specify the name. For example, I don't know, Quarkus server, right? So stuff like this check, and you can specify, you can actually create a builder here like this, and so you can put it up here, of course, but in this case you can specify a name separately, Quarkus server, right? And then you can of course call the build. But this is not everything that you can specify here actually. More to it is that you can specify with data, and this will be like a key value, right? So you can specify that, for example, I don't know, Maven status, right? And then like 1.3 like 1.3 or Maven plugin or something, right? So you can specify here whatever data you'd like to share, if it's required, of course, maybe system time, and then you can specify here new data, new date, get time, right? Like this. And this will be always as well used in a health check. So we need to specify application scope, of course. And yeah, that's it. So you will, when the other app will see if it's up or not, so you have this up method here. Of course, you can call it down if you need to, if your checks track that something is not working, right? Then you can always specify an up, down, sorry. So let's go to the postman and let's call the so we have a ready, and you can call the health live, and you will see that we have this Quarkus server here, and then you see the status, and then some data. So one of the good options is the uptime, right? When the server started, the time since the server started, maybe it can be helpful. But you can see you can put any data that can be helpful in a status to see how the status works. Maybe even share some of the information about the server as well. So yeah, so this was. So what I have here is our old example, the project called Hibernate ORM, and I'll do one action here is so make sure that your database is running. So I have this Quarkus DB, which we started a long time ago. You can see that it's up 6 days already, and 3 days ago it started. So let's go to the Quarkus course and go to this cd Hibernate ORM, and let's call maven v Quarkus add extension, and then minus the extension will be health, like this. You will see that it's it should theoretically, yeah. So adding extension io Quarkus small health, and at the same time let's call maven v Quarkus dev, like this. So let's start our project. I hope I haven't broke anything here, so let's let it download some stuff, and you can see the data source is initialized from this part, right? And we can go again to the Postman and call health live, actually ready, like this, and you will see that we have the database connections health check, which is up. And this one exactly comes from the database. So I wanted to show you that if you connect this database, this health library to any Quarkus extension, right? Any Quarkus library that supports it, of course, you'll have these checks. They are not, not bad to have because there is no private data shared, but it's really helpful to know if it's like there or not. So yeah, and you can actually, I think there is a list of supported libraries that you can use for such checks. There is plenty of the libraries that supports it. So yeah, now you know how to use the health checks, which is really crucial, and you also see how easy it is to set up. So if you don't have like anything, right? If you don't have any health checks, but you have a database or some other libraries that can implement these health checks, then it's really easy to just call this one line and you're ready to go. And you don't need to basically you can even add it if you don't want to implement this health ready health live, but you need to have it if in some environment, right? Like Kubernetes, you can get it straight from the buying this one library and you're ready to go. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.